down cracks or back in caves and all kind of ad hoc explanations. I was talking to one professor, actually made a presentation at a university in Tennessee, State University in Tennessee, to a group of senior geology students, and they all turned around to the head of the department when it was over and to see what he was going to say. And he said, well, we don't know that there weren't dinosaurs back there that had human feet. And I thought a minute, and I said, well, I guess that's right. We don't know that. We also don't know that there weren't humans back there with dinosaur feet. Wouldn't that make about as much sense? Wouldn't it be more reasonable to say these things that look like dinosaur feet were made by dinosaurs, and these things look like human feet were made by humans? No, he wouldn't agree with that. I said, well, if they were human tracks, would they look any different? And then he just got up and left. That was the end of it. And about half of them became creationists that afternoon. We get very encouraging results. I was at the University of Arkansas about a year ago, and there were 3 geologists who attended. The professors would not attend. These work for the state of Arkansas, and so we're not in academia and probably a little freer. They were very antagonistic the first night in their questions. The second night, you could tell it had toned down some and there was more information type questions. The third night, they heard the lecture you've heard tonight, and there were no questions. The fourth night, they were there, but the one who had sort of been the leader came up to me after it was over. And he said, we 3 geologists have been here each night. And I'll have to say we're impressed. In fact, we're just convinced that evolution cannot be true. And we've just got to start over. Now, what should we read? So we had some books for him to read. There's sometimes they're ready to tar and feather you, and of course that happened in the Lord's day too. And some of them won't believe if they got somebody raised from the dead, but there are honest people out there, and we ought not to be so conceited to think we're the only ones that are. And some of them have only heard one side, and they only see one view, and it looks pretty impressive until they see the alternative view and a consistent presentation. And that's all it takes. I had a geologist who had graduated with a PhD from the University of Alaska call me. This was about 2 weeks ago. And he said, my pastor made me look at your videos. And he said, and I'll just quote directly, he said, it changed my life. And he said, I want to order 3 more sets. He said, I'm going to change some more lives. So don't think people won't be affected. A lot of them won't, but a lot of them will. And we're looking for the honest hearts. Other questions? Yes?
Many years ago, I read Dr. Morris's book, The Genesis Flood, and in there was the verdict track, and many people here know about that. And they discussed it in National Geographic in, I think, 1939 or 1940. So I went down to the Denver Library and checked it out and made a copy of the article. And I forget the guy's name who was down there, you mentioned it, but he said in that article that if these are truly human tracks and the whole science of historical geology is wrong, and the geologists might as well take up truck driving, because he realized the significance of it.
No. I'm not sure I'd want him on the road either. Go ahead.
I coined a phrase from the O.J. Simpson trial, but it applies to the evolutionists. If it doesn't fit, you must omit.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, is they omit anything that doesn't fit their preconceived ideas.
We've had a number of occasions where we've seen deliberate destruction of evidence at probably half a dozen times. Yes.
Did you read the story of Martin Lockley's recent footprint find down in Mexico? Do you have any opinion of that? Or he said it was only 10,000 years old, of course.
Yes, I'm anxious to get down there to see it. I probably will be able to later this year. Until I've seen it, I wouldn't comment, but I'm not sure. It's very intriguing. They thought it was much older until they saw what it was. It's amazing how that clarifies the picture for them. Yes.
You showed those pictures, I guess, from the Incas, which
Yeah.
implied strongly that they had live dinosaur sightings maybe a couple of thousand years ago, which would have been a couple of thousand years after the flood. Do you have any thoughts about why they might have had live dinosaur sightings 2,000 years after the flood, but 2,000 years after that, we don't seem to see any at all?
Well, there's some pretty interesting accounts from the Congo and Papua New Guinea, and not that we can say have been confirmed, but there's some interesting evidence. Maybe they're not all gone yet. The environmentalists tell us we're losing about a species a month, which I think is probably overblown, but I don't see new ones popping in every month, but looks like a downhill process they're talking about. It is going downhill, and things are becoming extinct, and we know of dozens of examples of real things that have become extinct. This would be another example. If they were living around Denver, I suspect we'd want to shoot them. If you saw Jurassic Park, you'd understand why you certainly wouldn't want them around where you were. We read about dragon slayers, and they were famous for killing these things. They wanted to get rid of them. Maybe that had something to do with it. Some have really struggled